What's going on, guys? I am Toxic Jordan. Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be doing a team building guide for the Corroded Body and Mind stage of Super Battle Road here that just came to Global. This is going to be kind of an interesting, fun stage. This is definitely a smaller category, right? Let me go ahead and take a look at the Corroded Body and Mind category. There really isn't that much here, which, you know, it's really no surprise. There are so many of these villain teams in the game with such few options. That being said, though, there are definitely more options now than there have been in the past, like when we had the Corroded Body and Mind mission for the Legendary Goku event. That was pretty much impossible unless you had like every single Corroded Body and Mind card in the game. Now there are actually quite a few different team builds that you can make up of this list, even though there are such few cards. We are in luck that they're pretty cohesive with each other, and there are a few, a few big hitters on here that do help out a lot. So we'll go ahead and look through all the cards that I think are the best here, and then we'll switch over to the game, and I'll show you guys a few example team builds that I have put together. Okay, so first up, obviously, we have Fat Janemba here. He is the default Corroded Body and Mind leader here with the 170% leader skill. So he is kind of the choice go-to leader, but not to fear if you don't have him, there are other options for you. So this guy's going to be absolutely amazing for Super Battle Road. Guarding all attacks is going to be so good, especially in this Super Battle Road. Keep in mind this right here, that we're facing 3 enemies in the first fight, 2 enemies in the second fight, and 5 enemies in the third fight. So, you know, any allies that we can throw on the team that have guarding or damage reduction or things that are going to really be able to help them sponge attacks from like 5 different units being able to attack in one turn is going to be a very, very good thing. And then also with his, support passive, being able to select key spheres and whatnot to, to then become a support unit and get extra damage reduction for himself is just all is very, very good for him. I don't necessarily think that his transformation is going to be relevant, because you have to receive 5 attacks in battle first for that to happen, so you probably wouldn't be able to get off his transformation until, like, the last turn of the fight or something anyway. But in base is where all his power really is anyway. Okay, so next up we have the Physical Super Janemba. Again, a very, very top tier pick for this team. If you don't have the Tech Janemba to use as your leader, you can use this guy as a lead, because he's a 150% lead for Corroded Body and Mind, so not quite as good, but still, pretty reliable. And it actually could be debated that this would be a good strategy to use as your friend lead. You'd be losing 20% on the leader skill, but this might be a really, really good option to be able to have like 2 of him on the team, so you could run 1 on each rotation. Then you'd know your first slot units are taken care of, right? So yeah, that could be an interesting idea. But obviously this guy is an absolute behemoth. He guards all attacks within the same turn as the first or second attacker. Then he's getting a little bit of stat building here as the second or third attacker. He also has a high chance to nullify Ki Blast super attacks. And if we come over here and take a look at the characters that we're facing off against, I believe most of these are Ki Blasts. These 2 are Ki Blasts here. I believe this Trunks is a Ki Blast. And then this guy's a Ki Blast for sure. I'm actually not sure about some of these. The Pan probably is. We could open up all these cards and double check, but I'm not going to bother with that. There are definitely quite a few Ki Blast supers that will be launched at you throughout the course of the fight. That is pretty much guaranteed. So now, since we're talking about Super Battle Road here, and not necessarily like an easy A stage or something, you can duplicate all of your character names, right? Like you can run same name characters on a team together. So that being considered, you could also run the STR Super Janemba here. He's not going to perform quite as well offensively or defensively, but he is still a decent option here. He is another unit that guards all attacks. And then he has a medium chance to evade, and he gets an additional 10% chance to evade with each attack evaded, and that does reset at the start of each turn. So, you can depend heavily on this guy to be able to dodge your attacks and stuff like that. I would definitely recommend floating this guy, not depending on him as like a main rotation unit, just because the RNG of only a medium chance. That's only, what, 25% chance or a 30% chance? And then, stacking with the 10% after that, he is definitely going to get hit by some attacks, right? And even though he guards, he only has 100% defense. And he's not getting any more defense raises on super attack, so that is going to hurt his defense quite a bit. He is meant to dodge, right? You're not really meant to be able to sponge attacks if he does get hit, is kind of the thing. So be wary about that if you do choose to use this guy. Alright, and the next Janemba unit that we have is the Baby Janemba card. This guy is honestly probably going to be an even better option than the STR Super Janemba here. He's getting some HP recovery at the start of turn. He has a high chance to evade built in, and then he has the same thing, the same exact, build in his passive. So, except he gets 12% a chance to evade with each attack evaded. So, yeah, this guy's kit is literally just better than the STR Janemba, right? Because instead of being a medium chance and then 10% per evasion, he starts with a high chance, which is 50%, and then 12% per evasion. So he's just doing the same thing as STR Janemba, but he's doing it better, right? And then he does get some extra stats on super attack if your HP is high enough, which is nice, so he'll actually be able to do a little bit of damage for you. But then he, like the other Janemba, does not get a defensive raise on super, just an attack raise there. Oh, it's worth mentioning that all of these Janemba cards that we just went over have the Metamorphosis link, which is going to come in handy for, some start of turn healing. So keep that in mind. It's very, very wise if you're going to use 1 or 2 units that have this Metamorphosis link. It's very wide. There are a lot of units on this category that have it, so I would definitely double check for that, when you're doing your team building. Because, basically, like, if all 3 of your units on the rotation have the Metamorphosis link, you're going to be getting a free 10% healing per turn, right? And that is going to start to stack when you have healing in people's passives or on super attack effect and things like that too, right? So definitely things to keep in mind. Okay, so next up we have the Physical Metal Cooler. Obviously, this is going to be one of the absolute best units that you can use. For this is just one of the best LRs in the game, so he's definitely one of the best units on the category, right? Another unit that gets some HP recovery at the start of turn. He's got actually kind of like a ridiculous amount of stat buildup that helps him out so much. And then he also has some more HP recovery. Oh, let's see. Let me read this part. Recovers 10% HP at the end of the turn in which an attack was received, and recovers an additional 5% HP when there's another ally who includes Metal Cooler attacking the same turn. So, yeah, he'll get 10% if he gets hit in a turn, which in Super Battle Road, you're pretty much guaranteed to get hit every turn, right? Unless it's like the last turn of the fight and you only have 1 enemy left or something like that. Because there are a lot of attacks that get dished out. This guy also has a 70% chance to nullify melee super attacks. So, we are going to be seeing quite a few of those as well. There's going to be a hefty mix between the Ki Blast supers and the melee supers and stuff. So you will see some use out of that for sure. And then also, let's not forget that he has his Revive. This is probably the most important part of this guy's kit, especially for Super Battle Road, right? The only character in the game that has an unconditional Revive. It's just he spawns in with it, and the first time he gets hit and dies, he'll revive for you. So this can be a very, very good strategy when you're starting out. If you don't yet have your rotations lined up and you're going to get mollywopped on the very first turn, then you could just throw this guy in slot 1, let yourself get KO'd real quick, and then just kind of respawn in on the next turn. So yeah, that can be very, very helpful for you. It's also worth noting that you're going to be able to use this up to 3 times, because it'll reset for you in between each fight, right? So a very, very good ability to have in Super Battle Road. Okay, so then, similarly to the Janembas, you could use both of these Metal Coolers if you wanted to. Obviously, the AGL Metal Cooler here is not going to be nearly as good as the Physical Metal Cooler. He really, really depends on this part of his passive to look impressive here. He really needs this build up. So the first few hits that you take with this guy are probably going to hurt a little bit. So definitely keep that in mind. And you're going to have to deal with that at the beginning of each of the 3 fights. So this guy can be a bit of a liability, but just because it's such a limited category, I figured it was worth mentioning because he can do a lot of damage for you and stuff, right? So this guy could definitely be, a useful unit to have around. He's also getting some additional ki and crit chance when there's a superclass enemy, which there will be the entire time, and then some more ki and even more crit chance when there's a pure Saiyan enemy, which, again, I believe... Pure Saiyan... Okay, so you'll have Pure Saiyans in the first and third fight, just not in the second. So yeah, he'll be looking, pretty decent. And then again, some more HP recovery. Oh, and he also has the Cooler Core transformation, which is going to be really, really good. I actually did not consider that. Does it even show the... Oh, it's down here, the transformation conditions. So if your HP goes below 50%, which is really, really easy to do in Super Battle Road, then yeah, he'll be able to get the Cooler Core transformation, which is, that free giant form transformation. You'll get some additional damage out. And remember that giant transformation cards are really, really good in the modern meta because they essentially cancel boss super attacks, right? Because when you go into the giant transformation, you do your, 2 turns of the transformation or 3 turns of it, right? The enemies launch all their super attacks out at you. You don't take any damage from them. And then when you defuse and go back into the normal fighting phase, you are technically counted as being on the same turn, which means the game thinks that all those enemies have already super attacked on that turn, so they won't be able to super attack you on the following turn after you defuse or de-transform from the giant form, the Metal Cooler Core transformation there. So that can be a very, very useful piece of this kit. So if you're running through the event and you're finding yourself getting to low amounts of HP, this guy is definitely going to be a better option for you. Okay, so then we have Int Majin Vegeta here. I did want to mention him, just briefly. Again, same reason as the AGL Monocooler. Not the best unit to have around, but he still is a decently strong unit that can provide some, some decent tanking and some decent attack stats for you. The main problem with this guy is not being able to get this 30% damage reduction because there's no Trunks named units on Corroded Body and Mind, right? So you literally just can't get this part of his passive active, which means at most you're only going to be able to have, I believe it's 20% damage reduction with 6 or more key spheres obtained, and then obviously the additional 50% damage reduction or 50% defense that you'll get with the 3 key spheres. So he'll be decent, but not amazing, right? And then if you manage to receive 6 or more attacks in battle, which God help you if you do, I don't think that's really going to be happening. At least it shouldn't be, not with this character. There are definitely better characters to put in the way of all the attacks, right? But if you do, then you'll be able to get his his active skill off, which is an AoE attack. Just keep in mind that you do sacrifice 18% of your own HP when you launch this attack, which I don't think would be the biggest deal on this team, considering there are so many units that provide healing opportunities, right? So yeah, if you were able to get off that AoE, that could actually be a decent option for you too. So again, we've got a lot of same named units going on here. So the AGL Majin Vegeta is another potential option for you. I think he might actually... Okay, it's tough to say. He might be a better option than the Int Majin Vegeta. It's really hard to say, though, because of these 2 bullet points right here. I am only used to trying this guy out when he has his full passive active. I've made sure to have him, anytime I've used him before, I've made sure to have, these active so that he can get some additional damage reduction, additional stats and things like that, which definitely helps his defense a little bit. But for the same reason as the other Majin Vegeta, you won't be able to activate these. There's no Bulmas or Trunkses on the Corroded Body and Mind category, so yeah, you literally just can't get these active, unfortunately. But it is worth mentioning that his 18 key super attack is a AoE super, so that is really, really helpful for the Super Battle Road stage, especially because of that final phase having 5 enemies, right? You could do a world of hurt over there. And he does have a medium chance of stunning them as well. He also has the medium chance of stunning if you get off his 12 key. So, yeah, this guy could be decent for sure. Not amazing, but decent. And then, let's see, he also gets some additional crit chance here if there's a Goku ally or enemy, which there will be a Goku enemy in the first and third fights. So you might be able to take advantage of that. Okay, next up we have Rose here, the STR Dokkan Fest Rose. This guy's going to be quite good, actually. Now that I think about it, you potentially could use this guy as your leader if you wanted to. I might have to put a team together for this one. That would be kind of a fun build, actually. You're only getting 140% to your stats, which, you know, is a little bit, you're starting to edge on, like, unusable. But we're also talking about a normal Super Battle Road stage, not an extreme Super Battle Road stage, so it's probably not going to be as difficult of an event. I think you might be able to get away with using a 140% leader skill. You might have to use, like, a friend tech Janemba to get the, you know, the friend 170% leader skill, but with just the 140% for yourself, you might be able to rock with that. Especially considering this guy is an amazing extreme class support unit. All the units you're going to be using on this team are going to be extreme class, so that there's nothing to worry about there. And then he's giving attack 50% to Realm of Gods, so probably only to himself. Most of the Goku Black cards are like the only Realm of Gods on this category, and a lot of the Goku Blacks really are just not the best right now. I think this is the only Goku Black card that we're going over in this video, because, yeah, the rest of them are really just not amazing. At least not for Super Battle Road, right? And then this is a really, really big deal too, because the enemies can be debuffed in Super Battle Road. Super class enemies, which is every single enemy throughout the entire Super Battle Road stage that we're going to be facing here, they get attack and defense minus 30%. Now, I remember back in the day using the STR Omega Shenron, who has 40% attack and defense reduction to the enemy. That makes a huge difference for the damage that they're doing to you, mainly the attack reduction, right? So that is a really, really big deal to have him around. And then he also gets an additional 50% stats and attacks effective against all types for the rest of battle after you deliver a final blow. So this will be especially important for that final phase where you have 5 enemies. If you manage to take out even one of them, then you're going to get this effect off. So that could be very, very good. And then, if none of that was enough, he also gets a great defense raise on super attack, and he raises extreme class allies attack by 30% for 1 turn. Like, this is probably a staple. I would say if you have this guy in your box, you're definitely going to want him on the team. It pretty much doesn't matter what your build is. He is going to be activating his full passive on your team. Other than this right here. This is the only part of the passive you're not going to see, but everything else you're going to be able to see fully active in the Super Battle Road stage, no matter what your team is. So then next up we have the AGL Captain Ginyu here. Again, another sort of A-tier unit, probably not like the best to be using here. You know, with the consideration that this guy infinitely stacks defense, he obviously isn't the most amazing, like, out the gates. He also does depend on other Ginyu Force units, and he's unfortunately the only Ginyu Force member who's on Corroded Body and Mind. So, yeah, honestly, looking at this now, because he gets most of his kit depending on other Ginyu Force stuff, it's probably not going to be worthwhile using him unless you choose to use him as your leader, right? Because there are a lot of Terrifying Conquerors on this category, so you technically could use him as your leader, and then if you use him as your friend lead as well, then that's going to help you out a little bit, right? Because you're going to get an additional 10% stats, or let's see, you're going to get 20% attack and defense, because your Ginyu and the friend Ginyu will give you 20% there, and then it's assumed they're probably going to be on opposite rotations, right? So if they are on opposite rotations, then you're not going to really be seeing this buff. But keep in mind, he is giving himself this buff as well, right? So he has the 180% stats plus the 30% here. And then attacks effective against all types when there's another Ginyu Force category ally on the team. So if you have the friend, the friend Ginyu, that counts. And then both of them will have attacks effective against all types. So yeah, I would say you only want to use this guy if you're planning on using him as leader. Or, I mean, at least as friend leader, right? Which, if you are using him as friend leader, it probably makes sense to use him as your leader as well. In fact, I think this is your only option, besides this guy, to get a 200% leader skill off in this event. Because, you potentially could see some of these units on Terrifying Conquerors and Space Traveling Warriors to be under that 200% leader skill. So yeah, this actually could be a decent, idea. I'm gonna have to build a team with this guy, too. So next up, we've got the Int Dabura here, the Baba Shop Easy A card. I did want to include him. He is actually seems like he's going to be surprisingly good for this stage. So he's got 120% stats when performing a super attack. So this is a multiplicative buff, which means he is going to be hitting much harder than 120% right there. He is also getting additional 30% stats and a great chance of stunning, which is a 70% chance of stunning. with 3 or more key spheres obtained. Very, very easy to do, so you're pretty much always going to see this active. Keep in mind that this is a passive skill stun, not a super attack stun, which means it only activates for 1 turn. So I would say the best way to run this guy is put him in slot 3, and then whatever enemies are attacking him, whatever's like the most lethal enemy that's going to be attacking him, you'll want to target that enemy to make sure that they can't attack him, because it's starting immediately on the next turn, that enemy will no longer be stunned. Okay, and then he is getting additional 50% stats with 5 or more key spheres obtained. Definitely not too hard to do there, right? He's giving int types a boost, which I suppose that's kind of interesting. Let's jump back and take a look at the category again. Here, let me do this. Sort by elements, and then we'll go to int here. Okay, so these are all the int characters on the category. I mean, you've got some decent options. I mean, I suppose like the Metal Cooler Corps here, or the Metal Cooler Army, I mean, and then like Majin Vegeta, this free-to-play Metal Cooler. I mean, I suppose like Int Janemba, maybe. It's not the best. Int is actually probably like one of the worst typings on this category. Now that I look at it, yeah, probably. I mean, I would say Tech is the worst besides this guy, right? So yeah, that is kind of interesting. Well, it is a piece of his kit, but he definitely doesn't need to rely on it to be decent, right? And then he's also getting a defensive raise on his super attack effect. So if you compile all of these stats that he's getting, the 120% on super, the 30% raise on super, the 30% defense with 3 key spheres obtained, the 50% defense with 5 key spheres obtained, and then the 30% right here. Oh, and then he's also getting an additional 10% right here if you get 3 or more int key spheres, right? Then if you add all that up, he's going to be defending pretty well, actually. So yeah, this is definitely not the worst option. Don't sleep on this guy. And it is nice that this is a free-to-play option, right? Because there really aren't that many free-to-play units that are very viable for this event. So this can be one of those for you. Okay, so last up, there were a few Dragon Ball Heroes cards that I wanted to go over. I think I'm actually going to do like a separate video running the Dragon Ball Heroes team on this event. I think that could be a fun idea. But the last 2 cards we're going to go over here are going to be Dragon Ball Heroes cards that you don't necessarily need to have like a full Dragon Ball Heroes build in order for them to shine. So you definitely can slide these guys in, on a generic Corroded Body and Mind team, and they'll still work. So we have got the Brainwash Supreme Kai of Time here. She is honestly amazing for Super Battle Road, like one of the best Super Battle Road cards in the game. So she has a rare chance of stunning all enemies, so when you spawn in each turn, a rare chance, I don't know what a rare chance calculates out to, in fact. I don't think it tells us here. I would have to check on the other wiki. In fact, let me make a cut right here and double check that really quick. 1 second. Okay, so it looks like this rare chance is a 10% chance to stun all enemies for 1 turn. So it is going to be... Yeah, so each turn that you spawn in, you're going to have a 10% chance for all the enemies to be stunned. That could come in handy if that even procs 1 time for you, right? Like imagine you get lucky enough for that to proc at the very, very beginning of the 3rd fight, and you have 5 enemies out, and then they all just get stunned immediately. That would just be that would be mind-blowing, right? So yeah, she definitely can be a decent option there. For that, but that's just the beginning. So she's also got Key 2, and then 100% stats at the start of turn. She's also getting 100% more stats with the multiplicative super attack buff here. Then she gets... first I'm going to skip the rest of this really quick, and we're going to look at her super attack effect. So she's massively raising defense for 1 turn. Wow, what is a massive raise? Let's double check that too. 100%. Okay. Cool. So, she just doubles her defense on super attack. That's pretty good. Especially with the multiplicative buff in there, that's going to be really, really impressive. And then she's also greatly lowering the enemy's attack and defense. Greatly raising would be 50%, but I believe greatly lowering is actually a different modifier. Let's double check that one too. It's only 30%. Wait. Greatly lower. It's only 30? Interesting. Well, I knew it was different, but I actually thought it was higher. Okay, yeah, so she's going to be lowering the enemy's attack by 30% for for permanently, right? Okay, so because she is lowering attack and defense, that helps her out with the rest of her kit. So if we come and take a look here, she gets an additional 100% attack when the enemy is in attack down status, and then 100% when they're in defense down status, and she'll get an additional 100% if they're sealed, and an additional 100% if they're stunned. So while it is possible, it's probably pretty rare that you're going to see all of these buffs active at the same time, right? Because that means you will have had to attack an enemy multiple times already to be able to get them into the attack and defense down status, and then obviously she cannot inflict like a stun or anything other than this, right? So if you spawn in and they're stunned, then another bonus is that you get the 100% attack on anyone that you attack, and then the sealing as well, right? She potentially actually can inflict all of this, right, on an enemy, because she has the sealing down here too. So seals the enemy super attack for 2 turns, and a medium chance of stunning all enemies when there is another crossover category ally attacking in the same turn. Wait. Wow, interesting. So she has the rare chance to stun all enemies, plus the 30% chance to stun with a crossover category ally attacking in the same turn. So that's actually really good. Wow. Interesting. Okay, that's... Well, this... yeah, wow, this is so good. So, basically, if you have additionals on this woman, she's going to be amazing, right? So, if you tap an enemy once, then what's going to happen is they're going to get sealed here. We're assuming you have this last part active, too, if you're using another crossover category ally. Then you're going to get... you're going to seal the enemy, you're going to attack and defense lower them, and then if you do an additional attack, you're going to have 100, 200, and 300% additional attack. So your second attack is going to look insane. So yeah, definitely a very, very fun unit to use in Super Battle Road. This unit right here is the sole reason why I want to use a Dragon Ball superhero, build for this event. So I definitely plan to do that. And last but not least, we have the modified Janemba. So I included him in here because he's got some of his own viability here. Again, he is another Dragon Ball Heroes unit that doesn't necessarily need to depend on other, Dragon Ball Heroes units in order to look decent. He can go without it for sure. But this is, and then I also included him in here because if you did need a crossover ally to run with the Brainwash Supreme Kai of Time, this is by far the best option on the category for sure. So let's take a look at him here. He's got a high chance of guarding all attacks for 5 turns from the start of turn, which is, just fine. You're not really going to be in a fight for longer than 5 turns in Super Battle Road, so he'll basically always have this high chance active, and then he also gets guaranteed guarding when you're facing 2 or more enemies. So when you first spawn into any of the stages, you're going to be good to go and have a guaranteed guard with him. He just won't have it, towards the end of the fight. When you're down to the last enemy. But even then, he still has the high chance, as long as you're within the 5 turns, right? So he's also getting 30% stats per crossover category ally on the team. So this is where he's going to get hurt a little bit, because obviously, you're likely not going to have a full team of crossover category allies unless you're doing a heroes build. But, you'll at least get the 1 stack for himself, and then potentially the 2nd stack if you're using like another, like the Supreme Kai of Time or something, right? So he'll get a little bit of stats there, not super amazing, but some. And then he gets some more attack with each super attack performed, and then some more defense with each attack received. So he does have a little bit of building up to do. This now that I look at it, talking about it, he's probably not going to be like amazing or anything, but I think he'll work. He'll work. Yeah. Especially because if we take a look down here that he has the attack and defense raised by 30% for 3 turns, that means that, again, it's going to take until at least his 2nd appearance to get this fully active as well. So yeah, he's going to be a little bit of a liability for you on, like, turn 1. But he at least has the guaranteed guard helping out in place of the stats that he'll be missing. And then he also has a high chance to crit, starting from the character's next attacking turn after he receives 5 attacks in battle. So you can pretty much ignore that, because that's almost never going to happen for you here. You definitely should not be putting this guy in the way of the most attacks to make sure that he gets this off. It's probably not wise. And then he actually has Metamorphosis as well, so perfect. And even Big Bad Bosses. Wow, that's really, really good. I forgot to glance at her links. Nah. Yeah, unless you're running, like, other heroes units, she probably doesn't have the best link set here, unfortunately, but that's okay. She's got plenty else that she's working with. Okay, so that is all the units that I wanted to point out to you. Let's go ahead and switch over to the game, and I will show you the teams that I've put together. Alright, so this is the first team that I've got for you guys here. This is just our example of our generic Corroded Body and Mind team. With the Tech Janemba, the Fat Janemba as leader, so you're free to run whatever units that you want to on here, right? So this is probably a pretty strong team. This one will get it done. It's not very fun or interesting, but it is what it is. So then next up, this is an example of how we would be able to use the AGL Captain Ginyu as a leader. This is essentially a Terrifying Conquerors team, and we do have quite a few Space Traveling Warriors here as well. I believe all of the Metal Coolers are Space Traveling Warriors. Dabura should be as well, right? No, he's not. He's not. There's always... It's so weird. I always forget about this. There's a lot of Majin Buu Saga characters that I think should be Space Traveling Warriors. Namely, every single Buu in the game. Well, not every single, because some of them are birthed on Earth and stay on Earth until they're ultimately defeated on Earth, right? So some of them aren't, but... You know, like Kid Buu and stuff. Not on Space Traveling Warriors. Definitely should be, as he blows up planets and travels the galaxy throughout the Buu Saga and you know, whatever. And then, you know, how did Dabura and Babidi get to Earth in the first place if they didn't travel through space to get there? Like, why wouldn't he be on... It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, not on Space Traveling Warriors, but he is on the 170% portion of the leader skill. And then, is this guy on Space Traveling Warriors? Probably not, right? Yeah, he's not either. So there you go. 4 out of 6 isn't bad. And then, you know, this is obviously, you'd be running the friend Ginyu as well. So this is a very viable option to be able to give yourself a 200% team to get some of those extra stats if that's something you're into. And then this would be the only other option you have for a 200% build, would be to go the free-to-play Metal Cooler route. You can run both of, you know, the LR Metal Cooler and the AGL Dokkan Fest Metal Cooler here, and then just fill it in with whichever of the, you know, free-to-play Metal Coolers float your boat there. So now this is our heroes build that we've got. This is going to be really, really fun. I can't wait to take this team into the event. This is going to be so fun. And we're going to have 2 of the Supreme Kai of Time because she is the 150% crossover leader that we need. And actually, I didn't go over some of these cards here because, again, they are very, very dependent on having other heroes units around in order to look good. But, yeah, this build is going to be fun. We'll go into more depth when I actually make the video taking this team into the event. And then last up here, we've got, this would be, you know, the example if you wanted to use the Rose as the leader. So keep in mind that Rose is only giving a leader skill buff if you have a card of every type on the team. So you need AGL, Tech, STR, and Fizz on the team. You'll notice here we don't have a single Tech unit, but if we go ahead and take a look in here, this is every single Tech unit that's on Corroded Body and Mind, and they're all pretty much dog water, except for... like Tech Janemba, and then if you happen to have like the modified Janemba, maybe he could work decently. Like obviously you could throw any of these units on there if you wanted to, but they're just really not good. So obviously I'm assuming that if you're choosing to use Rose as your leader, it's because you don't have the Fat Janemba. That's why I didn't include him on the team. But the loophole here is that you can just run Fat Janemba as your friend lead. That way you'd still be getting the 170% leader skill, and then that's how you're going to incorporate the Tech unit to be able to get the leader skill for this guy. So there you go. Hopefully that was a helpful guide for you guys, and you'll be able to, you know, take this event down. I'm curious to know what builds you guys use. So if you had anything funky or interesting, or you tried out any of these random builds that were different than just the generic Corroded Body and Mind team, let me know in the comments below. I would love to know that very much. And if there's any other units on the team that you want to know if they're decent or not, then you can shoot me and ask in the comments about that as well. Alrighty, well that is going to wrap it up for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. Peace!